would you do if you run completely out of cash? What would you do if you wanna cut a dash? Polish up the shoes, throw on something fine. We don't talk about diesels, I'm running on style this time. Cruising down the boulevard, wheels gleam in the night. Beige leather interior, looking chic alright. Money's a little tight, but I'm feeling brand new. Living large tonight, no budget reviews. Blues! What do you mean I'm not getting paid for this?
A glorious day, viewers, and how wonderful it is to be once again filming a Swindon Civic. This is a 1999 model. We call them the Swindon Civics because they were made in Swindon, and because these cars are significantly different from the style of the 3- and 4-door Civics that were also on sale at the time. This is an MB2 Civic. It is a 1.4 automatic. They're very similar underneath to the EG Civics of the early 1990s. In fact, this car is actually based on a Japanese domestic market car from 1992 called the Honda Domani, which means tomorrow in Italian. The Domani was essentially identical underneath to the EG Civic, front suspension, rear suspension, that kind of stuff, and some of the interior bits are the same as well. In 1995, they launched this car, the 5-door Civic MB. I think some of them are MAs and MCs as well. This is an MB2. The MB6 is the one that people are interested in, which is the 1.8 VTI model. And it is very similar, sort of at the front, particularly the pre-facelift versions, but the back is obviously completely new. At the same time, in 1995, Rover, who were in partnership with Honda at the time, launched a car called the HHR 400, which is very similar to this. The centre section is the same, but the front and rear are different. And in 1996, they launched a saloon version of the 400 HHR, which has nothing to do with the Domani at all. The Domani's not the best looking car, to be honest. We never got them over here, really. I've seen a couple, though. This is a better looking car than the Domani Saloon, and the 400 Saloon is even better than this, actually. You get a 400 hatchback as well, and of course you had, after 2000, that the 400 HHR was renamed Road 45, and in 2001 the MGZS model was launched as well, which was a lot more sporty than the 45. Because I used to own a 45 V6 from 2020 to 2023, I know these cars backwards pretty much on this platform. I've also reviewed already 2 of them, so I'm very familiar with these indeed. This particular car is very clean. It's quite low mileage. The only problem is the wheel trim, which obviously can be replaced. Some paint's peeled off them for reasons I'm not quite sure why, but apart from that, it's pretty good. I think the colour's very nice. This is actually a base model. It's not even got a trim level. It's just going to be 1.4 injection automatic. But it's reasonably well equipped. I wish it had air conditioning, but it doesn't. But never mind, it's got a sunroof. And these original dealer plates from Elite Motors in London, in Tooting to be precise, from 1999. We can either use the release inside the car, or we can use the key like that. So Davey owns this car, actually does have a disability, so that's why the wheelchair is in the back. Just in case he needs it at the moment. The spare is under here. I've done 2 of these cars on the channel before. I've done 400 HHRs and multiple Road 45s and MGZS, so they're all very, very similar in that respect. The boot is maybe 350 litres, something like that. Speakers, which belies the age of the design actually, sort of early 90s, are on the sort of shelf at the back, which is unusual these days really for any car. So we've not got any rust on here. The rust problems on these were unfortunately quite bad, and obviously the newest ones of these Swindon Civics date from 2001. So to find one like this, where you can look at the rear arches and say, yep, there's nothing wrong with them like that. Also the front down here goes just at the, just there. This one's absolutely fine. So look at one of these and say that that's fine is incredible. Let's go in the back. It's not the most spacious in the back, unfortunately. But there's one thing here I've seen with this car, and that is that we don't have a map pocket on the back of the driver's seat. Obviously, it makes the car a bit more spacious, but that's a little bit mean. Maybe it's they want you to trade up to the next model up. These window winders look just like the ones on a Rover Metro, are they? I can't remember, to be honest with you. But there we go. Door cards in this car are exceptional. Often on the Rover 400s and the 45s and the MB2s and these, the door cards start sort of peeling off, but these are brilliant. Headroom is a little bit tight, particularly with the sunroof, and the headlining is slightly sagging, but it's been sort of fixed. You can see very slightly sagging, but it's a really common problem on these. Not too bad, it's been essentially fixed. If you were fussy about it, you could do something about it, but don't need to really. Ashtray in the middle there, mat pocket on one side. It's not got the wood that the HHR Rover 400 would have. They had little wood bits on the door card, as far as especially in the front, and they had like a paisley interior this time. But this car doesn't have anything like that, particularly because you've got the more basic model here. Still, it's fine. There's the old dashboard, which is in the 45s and ZS up to 2004. Which is perfectly fine, there's nothing wrong with it. And the Marley dash, I think was the same as well, actually. Yeah, fabrics are pretty good, to be honest, in here. It's a little bit tricky sometimes to get your foot trapped under there, but it's not too bad. It's quite a low carbon one standard, actually, this. I think the 3-door and 4-door Civics were even lower than this. So, really for like a base model, it's quite well equipped. We've got electric sunroof, we've got electric windows in the front, power shot driver's window. For some reason that is there as opposed to down in the middle where we've only got one more switch. If this has had 4 electric windows, you'd have 2 switches for the rear, 1 for the front, and then a locking switch as well. You'd also, on higher spec models, have like a centre console thing, but this doesn't have one because we are in poverty spec. No air conditioning, no heated seats, no front fog lamps, which would be there. On the Rover 545 V6, the connoisseur models, you actually got cruise control, which would be there. You don't go in this. Dash on there, it's actually an analog manometer on here, and not a digital one. Clock actually works, which is amazing. The 45s are notorious for clock failure. This one is perfect, and that's actually the right time as well, which is good. Very, very simple heating ventilation control, sort of idiot-proof, really. When we pull out the ashtray, this car is completely clean. So yeah, this is a 4-speed auto. You get a 5-speed manual if you wanted. But probably one of the reasons why this car's lasted as well as it has, as long as it has, is because this is the automatic, and so it would have been with a very careful owner, and it's only done 47,000 miles. This is why this car is worth more than No Budget Reviews money. You can pick them up for less than No Budget Reviews money, but this one's worth a bit more than that. So electric sunroof controls are up here. You can tilt and slide the sunroof if you want to. That's the only interior light, by the way. You don't get any extra ones, which is a shame, but there we go. Do we have... Yeah, we got a mirror... Wow, it's interesting we don't have a mirror on that side. The mirror's only on this side. I would assume that it's because they don't think that the gentleman who's probably driving this car needs a mirror for himself, whereas if it's a lady, she needs it on that side. But, you know, ladies do drive cars as well, Honda, so I don't know why that is. To be honest, the rows are the same. I don't really know why they made a decision, cost cutting or something. Electric mirror switch has been in Hondas and Rovers since the dawn of time, as have these indicator and wiper stalks that are very, very similar to the old Rover R8 and Honda Concerto. The only difference between these and the ones on my old Rover 45 V6 is because it was a saloon rather than a hatch. I didn't have the rear wiper controls on there, but it's all very familiar. Seats are nice and comfortable, really. I'll have a look in a moment to see if I can fit my secret mission documents in a glove box. Passenger airbag sits on top of there. You can see originally it was a bit of an afterthought, even in 1992 with the Marley dash, so it's still sort of there. Other than that, there's not really an awful lot to say. There's a storage compartment down here, which is actually lined with some felt. The door bins are okay in size. They're not massive, really, but they're okay. Bonnet releases down there. Do we have an illuminated... ignition barrel? No, some of the earlier HHR 400s have that. Obviously, they've been taken out of both cars by 1999, unless it's a sort of spec thing. There's the release for the bonnet and the fuel filler flap, if you want to use that, which you probably do at some point. Yeah, I thought that was not much to say. Door cards, absolutely fantastic in here. I miss a bit of wood trim on top of there you get in an HHR 400, but never mind, we have still got some wood on here. Right, let's take a look at this engine then. Lovely, lovely clean engine bay, just like the rest of the car. This is famous, Honda's famous 1.4 D series engine. It was available at capacities from 1.3 to 1.6 litres. This is about 89 horsepower. These engines are actually pretty reliable engines. They turn in completely the opposite way from the HHR Rover 445 and ZS. The gearbox, as you can see, is on the left-hand side, whereas in most transverse engine cars with a four-cylinder like this, it would be on the right. And indeed, in the HHR 400s, it is on the right. The K series and their own KV6s turn the opposite way. So when this car was, made into the HHR 400 in 1995, Honda actually still made the engines for the automatic 1.6. I own one of those, and they still have a Honda D series, so they have a completely separate range of engines, and they turn the other way. So the engineering in those is completely different, which is very strange. Although all the Civic models, the 5 doors, they have had the D series or the very similar B series engine, so they turn in this direction. So it looks good with the facelifted headlamps. Haven't got any fog lamps or anything. There's a timing belt to do. There's actually a balancer shaft belt on this as well, so those do need doing. They're very common for cam cover gasket weeps on here, but this car is perfect and dry, so I don't think we've had any of those, which is brilliant. Which just shows how well this car has been looked after. They are very, very durable if you look after them. Although sometimes they can very occasionally blow head gasket, but it's not that common actually. It can happen, but it's not like a K series. Whereas I love the K series, it's more common on that than on a Honda D series engine. Right, that's enough about waffling, viewers. I think we're going to take it out for a spin. Not today then. Right, viewers, let's go out for a little drive in this lovely Civic. So the suspension on this car is actually quite sophisticated. It's got multi-link rear suspension and double wishbones at the front. It's a design that Honda actually they later abandoned, but at this time Honda was a very much an engineering-led company, and Rover were very happy to adopt this for the HHR 400. Although previously with the Concerto and the R8 2 and 400, they'd use different suspension in those for some reason. Steering is nice and light. Visibility is pretty good. I mean, I could do with some parking sensors on the back, something like that, but it's not too bad, I suppose, for a car like this. Hopefully we'll get out of this junction soon, viewers. Eine Stunde später. Right, here we go, viewers. So the base engine of these was this 1.4 D series with either 88 or 90 horsepower, depends on the year. Then there was a 1.5. Now the early 1.5s were available with what's called VTEC E, where it's a 1.5 12 valve engine, and actually they didn't use one of the valves if you wanted to extra economy. It only opened if you put your foot down. So you either had an 8 valve engine or a 12 valve engine, depending on the behaviour of it. That generated about 89 horsepower, and then later on the sort of more powerful version, like the one I tested in 2023, was 112 horsepower. With a 1.6 D series, you get it with 112 horsepower. The early ones with 114 horsepower, and the most powerful D series was 122 horsepower, 1.6. That was in the car I tested in 2022. And then at the top of the range, the most desirable of these HHR, sorry, not HHR, the Swindon Civics, would be the 1.8 B series engine, which develops maximum power. I think it's 7,600 RPM, and that, which is 167 horsepower, and they are very, very quick. You could either get that in the hatch like this, 5-door, or in the Civic Aero Deck, which is an amazing car. They were quite rare. They were the estate version of these, and one thing you can do that's sort of fun, so people have done this, is put the front end from a Rover 45 or an HHR 400 onto the Civic aero deck, and it makes it into the Rover 400 Tourer or 45 Tourer that Rover never had. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. Whenever I try one of these Swindon Civics, I'm always reminded of how nice they are to drive, and therefore by extension how nice the MGZS, Rover 45 and HHR 400 are. They're very, very well engineered cars. They're comfortable. The ride in this car is quite supple, but also when you're cornering, it does hold on quite well. The steering is quite nice in these. You can see why they were quite popular. The thing is, by 1999 when this car was made, the Ford Focus and the Volkswagen G and the Mark IV Golf were out, so they made this car just look a little bit dated, but not necessarily, you know, kind of superior in the driving experience so much, in many ways. The Focus and the Astra G and the Golf all have their own merits, of course, but just in terms of the styling and sort of the interior, because the interior is from the early 90s, and the styling is sort of related to that too, it just looks a little bit dated. See, the Rover 45 was discontinued in 2005, was very dated, but I really like these cars, viewers. I've owned two Rover 45s myself, and you know, I love these Honda versions as well. If anything, these are like a more affordable way into things like the sort of EJ and EK Civics, which were made alongside these and are a lot more expensive now. But because of the way these cars look, people don't really realise underneath they're very similar. They are just a bit more affordable. I don't know why that is, but I think that's just down to personal preference. Let's look at some trim levels now for the Swindon Civic 5-door. So we have the LS, LE and ES at the start. Then later on everything went to the SE. So we had the SE, the SE Executive, which I drove actually in 2022. The Sport, the SE Executive Sport, the SE Sport, the Crazy VTI, the VTI S, and then just the S model, which is the one I drove in 2023, it's a 1.5S. So viewers, should you consider a Swindon Civic for your hard-earned budget up to £1,000? Well, you might want to actually. This car's really had a problem with the starter motor, which is why actually this is the second time I filmed it. And you've got to watch the rust and make sure someone's done the timing belt on the engine. But there's not that much else that tends to go wrong with these actually. Sometimes the electric's going to be a little bit funny, and you can have problems with the ABS system and things like that, but they're not too bad, particularly with this D-Series engine. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment below, and we shall see you again very soon for some more inexpensive motoring.